please welcome back Sarah Lockyer.
Thank you so much, Joe and Pat. That was fantastic. And good morning. I am thrilled to be here on behalf of Restaurant Business to help present this year's Restaurant Leader of the Year Award. This is the 4th year that we've presented this award to a leader in the industry whose incredible accomplishments, business acumen, and influence over others is a model of success. This award is selected by the editors of Restaurant Business, and we look for success in sales and profit. We look for sustained unit growth, and we look for leadership in particular that goes well beyond the P&L. To put it simply, the Restaurant Leaders of the Year are winning. So we have honored on this stage Paul Brown, Greg Flynn, Danny Meyer, and this year we are very excited to present the 2018 Restaurant Leader of the Year to Ron Shaich. Now, we will hear from our winner very soon, and we'll get inside his thinking with what I know will be a very thought-provoking and inspirational discussion with our Restaurant Business Editor-at-Large, Peter Romeo. But first, to help us introduce this year's winner, please welcome the Senior Vice President, Chief Customer and Business Development Officer at PepsiCo Food Service, Hugh Roth. Hey. Thank you so much, Hugh, and welcome to the stage at RLC.
Hi, Sarah, and hi, everybody. It's great to be here at RLC again. It's one of my truly favorite events of the year. And before we get started, I'd actually, on behalf of all of PepsiCo, congratulate the RLC team on their 20th anniversary. I see the pins around on the lapels being worn proudly, and it's awesome to be a part of it. So, and we've been a big part of this conference for many, many years, well over a decade. And there are just so many incredible leaders in this industry. So this award really, it means a lot. It means recognizing the best of the best. And I'm excited to be here on stage to honor this year's winner again with you.
Excellent, thank you. So as we at RLC and Restaurant Business, we love the opportunity here to recognize excellence. And we really appreciate your support of this presentation. We know that excellence is certainly one of the Pepsi values, so why don't you tell us what that means?
Yeah, that's a great and important question for us. Excellence is really something we take to heart, truly to heart at PepsiCo. We're constantly challenging ourselves to better answer the ever-changing needs of our consumers, all of ours, and helping you, our customers, grow your business. And you may have heard our CEO, Indra Nooyi, talk about performance with purpose. It's our fundamental belief that our success is linked to the world around us. Our products, our brands, they touch many people around the world. So we're challenged to listen to them and respond to those consumer trends and needs and frankly, meet and exceed the needs of our customers, which is very, very near and dear to us. So, you know, frankly, when you think about excellence, this year's award winner is an amazing leader that I associate with constantly setting a new standard of excellence for our industry, which we all love. And so we couldn't be any happier to be a part of this recognition. So hey, let's get to it.
Yeah, let's definitely get to it. So thank you very much. Ron Shaich is known for both his business success at Panera, but also his personal commitment to leadership. Panera's stock was the best performing restaurant stock of the past 20 years. It generated annualized returns of nearly 26% and delivered total shareholder value 44 times better than the S&P 500. That was from July 97 through July 2017 when Panera was taken private. Now, he attributes this success to undertaking long-term transformations that focus on providing returns to all of Panera's shareholders, the guests, the associates, franchisees, suppliers, and of course the community that Panera serves. So we've prepared a short video to show some of you the sides of Ron Shaich that you may not know.
Ron was the co-founder, CEO of A Warm Pan when I first joined them in '89. Ron, left to start Panera Bread, and I stayed on, but I've been in touch with Ron ever since.
I had been called by a headhunter who actually said, "Hey Blaine, you should meet this guy. His name's Ron Chick. He's starting this new concept. It's called Panera Bread. He's a bit of a wild and crazy guy, but you would have a great time when you meet him."
I've never met someone like Ron. He's first and foremost friend, good friend, real partner. I love working with him. I love the person. He's a one of a kind.
He makes you feel like you're the only one in the room. He listens, he's authentic, and no matter what's pulling him in any direction, when you're with Ron, he's in the moment.
One of the things that people told me about Ron is that he loved restaurants. So it was interesting. The first restaurant that he took me to was one that I had wanted to go to for years. It was Hammersley's in Boston.
I'd say going back to high school, Ron was interested in the food and restaurant industry. I remember when we were in high school, he decided he wanted to open up a Sunday morning bagel delivery business, the Sunday New York Times and bagels, and did it for a while.
He is always tasting like junk food or pastries and saying that he's having it for professional reasons to get away with it.
For a guy who spent his entire career in the restaurant industry, he can barely toast bread without burning it.
My dad always says that he has 3 children, me, Michael, and Panera.
He's always prioritized me and my sister and his family just as much as he prioritizes Panera.
He loves to spend time with Nancy and the kids. He loves to share that with a lot of us, actually. He showed us a picture of him with purple hair at a Taylor Swift concert with Emma, which is something none of us will ever really forget.
He's not a dancer, he's not an artist, he's not a painter, he's not a musician, but he is a fantastic businessman, and he knows how to start and grow businesses.
But very few people can actually distill that great idea down to the essential part of what truly matters. Ron is one of those rare people who can do that every day.
His ability to really think through things end to end and force the organization to do that as well.
And then trying to come up with evidence-based solutions and then running that solution all the way to the end, but not being satisfied until it's operating, and it's operating the way he thinks it should be.
I think Ron's intellectual honesty is a hallmark. His discipline and kind of personal courage.
He takes on and delivers on what most other people only dream about.
I advise him and get his perspective almost on any aspect of the business, and he's a real partner. And we going to build this together.
Ron has helped my partner Leah and I understand the concept that we are trying to build.
He's very influential at a high level, but he does allow myself and my partner to really, do our jobs.
And really understanding every single facet of the consumer's psychology when they come into a place like this. What are they looking for? How do they want to interact with the space?
I think what drives Ron to succeed is seeing problems.
When we walk into a store and he's very good with the details, the minute details, and he sees some things that could be improved. For instance, maybe there's only 2 registers on, or the trays where you drop the food off are overflowing. That gets him going. He takes a lot of pictures, he makes notes of it.
People often talk about the technology of Panera, but the reality of technology of Panera, it isn't about technology. It's about trying to figure out how do we legitimately and materially improve the guest experience. And people confuse it. Customers don't come and want technology. CEOs want technology. Customers want a better guest experience.
What Ron does better than anyone I know is seeing the future before it's here, and then disrupting the status quo with things that make a material difference in people's lives.
The number of times I was with him and someone stopped and told him, because of Panera or because of something you did, I was able to do something in my life, send my kid to school, take care of a relative, something like that. I could see how much that meant to him, and I think more than anything else, that was one of the biggest motivators for him.
Ron receives hundreds of emails and letters, handwritten letters, telling him what an impact he's made on their lives.
He's driven by the values that he grew up with. Basically, to make this world a better place.
And he really wants to make that difference, and that's what gets him up in the morning.
And he had an epiphany a number of years ago and told me that he realized he's helping 10 million people make food choices a week.
I think it's his passion. It's not any desire to outprove someone else or something like that. It's his own desire to make the world a better place.
And business is one of the ways he's doing that. And I think he'll use the fruits of his business success to do it more in his next phase in life.
With Panera Cares, his desire was to create a place where people could go, maybe a little less fortunate, but could go with dignity.
Which no one thought could work, but in fact worked really well.
It's the same place that anyone else would go. You go, you don't say how much you're paying, you drop in whatever you can afford, and somebody else covers the bill for you.
And he's led not only so much in the restaurant industry, but in society.
We're hopeful Ron never leaves Panera. I mean, he's been a really incredible founder and leader and CEO, and he's now moved to the chairman's role. Ron will always be an influence and impact here at Panera, and we're excited about that.
Post-Ron, Panera, I think will be well off. First, we'll complete the implementation of the initiatives and ideas that were begun under Ron's tenure. But I'm sure that he wishes and we wish that the team that he's left in charge will keep coming up with new ideas and maintain Panera's position as industry leader indefinitely into the future, and use the advantages it's garnered from its current success to increase the gap between it and its competitors.
He loves this industry, and it's just a part of who he is.
Congratulations, Ron.
Congratulations, Ron.
Congratulations, Ron.
Congratulations, Ron. Very well deserved.
Congratulations, Ron.
Congratulations, Ron.
Congratulations, Ron.
Congratulations, Ron.
Congratulations, Ron.
Congratulations, Ron.
Congratulations, Dad.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Dad. I love you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in welcoming the 2018 Restaurant Leader of the Year, Ron Shaich.
Thank you, Hugh.
You bet.
Wonderful.
Congratulations.
Sarah?
Thank you. That was great,
Love it.
right?
Cool. Thank you. Thank you. Wow. That was really sweet. Thank you. Thank you to my many friends and competitors in the audience who, by competing with me, made me better. Thank you to our suppliers who had faith in our dreams. And thank you to our franchisees who stuck with me and my crazy ideas over the years. Thank you to the hundreds of thousands of people presently working at Panera who've held me accountable to our shared dream and then made that dream a reality. And thank you to my family who gave me the time and the space to live my dreams. Friends, the greatest joy of my career has come from dreaming together, creating together, and learning together. So it's probably appropriate to share with you now some of what I've learned over the years, particularly as it applies to creating the kind of success Panera has had. Panera's financial success has been the byproduct of an intense focus on being a better competitive alternative and a willingness to transform how we go to market continuously. In fact, the history of our company can be seen through the lens of 5 key long-term transformations, or as we call them, smart bets, undertaken over the last 36 years. Think about it. In 1981, the company you know today as Panera was a croissant shop called Au Bon Pain. In the mid-'80s, we recognized that croissant could have a more promising future as a platform for a sandwich than it did as an individual product. So we evolved our croissant shop into a bakery cafe. In the mid-1990s, we understood that our customers were part of a powerful niche of the broader food service market. That is the niche that rejected fast food and wanted real food, served in environments that engaged them and offered up by people who cared. Folks, we built Panera to do just that, and it became the embodiment of an approach that many call fast casual, which is a $40 billion segment of the restaurant industry today. Then in the late 90s, when it became clear that Panera had the potential to be a nationally dominant brand, we made the truly difficult decision to sell all of our other businesses, including the original Au Bon Pain business, my first son, to ensure Panera had all the financial and human capabilities required to fulfill its destiny. Then came the boom days and the Great Recession of the zeros. During the booming dot-com years, we remained disciplined and harbored our resources, while so many others leveraged their balance sheets. And when the Great Recession hit, we were contrarian again and made another smart bet by investing in the guest experience. Just as our competitors were ripping costs out of their P&L, we were simultaneously investing into that guest experience and ramping up development. The result, comps hit mid-single digits and our stock tripled through the recession. And in the last 6 years, we've again transformed Panera and I think done some of the best work of the 36 years. We've ensured that indeed Panera is a better competitive alternative with runways to grow the business from $5 billion to $10 billion. The themes we bet on over a half-decade ago, digital, clean, loyalty, and delivery and catering, those themes are today reshaping the restaurant industry, and I'm pleased to say Panera is leading in all of them as others race to adopt them. The result, an extraordinary 2017 with comps in excess of 6% and the biggest restaurant deal ever in the United States at the very highest multiples. So now I'd like to share with you something a bit more concerning that I've also learned after 36 years leading our company and 26 years as a public company CEO. In today's capital markets, it's increasingly more difficult to execute the kinds of long-term transformations that were at the core of Panera's success over the last 3 decades. Why? Why do you ask? Because our capital markets are impacted increasingly by short-term thinking. You can see it in the growing investor activism in the public markets, and you can see it in private equity as they focus on their exit strategies from day one. So what does that mean? What does it mean for CEOs and leaders in this room? It means we are under ever-increasing pressure to deliver inflection points and short-term results quarter to quarter, rather than year to year or over multiple years. It means we find ourselves subtly pressured to focus only on those initiatives that are guaranteed to produce a high return in a short period of time. Where does that leave you? The only initiative that can do that? Cost cutting. And indeed, it means leaders stop thinking about value creation the old-fashioned way by building a better competitive alternative and driving transaction growth over the long term, and focus instead on surviving to the next quarter, next year, or next financing. And I want to add this. I want to add that this increasing pressure for short-term results has material implications for the broader economy. I know nobody wants to talk politics, but we all know the truth. Tax reform is simply a sugar high that will provide a short-term jolt to GDP growth. However, any economist will tell you that if we really want GDP growth, it requires productivity improvements and real innovation. And we all intuitively understand that it requires time and long-term commitment. So what can we do? What can we do? I would say this: as you think about growing your business, think deeply about how you finance that growth. It matters. If you're a small enterprise, you must avoid what I call the treadmill of continuous financing. And unfortunately, you must avoid many of today's equity instruments, which come with highly diluted preferred equity and crammed down features. Indeed, entrepreneurs need to begin thinking of financing not as a corporate life cycle event. That is to say, let's complete A, let's complete Series B, Series C, Series D, and Series E, in which the objective is to maximize valuation on each series. But rather, entrepreneurs need to focus on selecting financial partners who are committed to protecting what makes the business differentiated in the eyes of the target customer, and finding investors with the strength and maturity to stand with you through the ups and downs and winding trail we experience when we grow an enterprise. On the other hand, if you're involved with private equity, you need to separate out the private equity firms that are focused on the next inflection point and the quick exit, and you need to select those private equity firms that are evergreen in nature and willing to work with you and build the business for the long term. And finally, if you're in a public company, you must know how to deal with an increasingly short-term public equity market. Most importantly, you must focus on maintaining credibility as a public company and building a community of investors and a board that allows you to make long-term transformative bets. But I must tell you the truth. If you're leading a public company, you must recognize how really hard it is. Just ask my friend Sally Smith. Here's my point. If you're in a business that doesn't share a commitment to long-term transformation, I would challenge you with this question. Why? Why are you there? Because I will tell you something I've come to know. Without the ability to make long-term transformative bets like we did at Panera, your probability of success is truly quite low. Folks, this business is tough enough when you have the support to make long-term bets. It's tough enough when you're focused on the short, but when you're focused on the short term, you remove your available options and you remove the kinds of options that actually create shareholder value over the long term. Indeed, it is to protect our ability at Panera to make long-term transformative bets that I took Panera private with an ultra long-term partner. See, I believe the future is bright. It's bright for companies with people and a capital structure willing and able to make long-term commitments and bet on long-term transformation. Okay, so now that I've taken Panera private, people ask me all the time, what is Act 3 for Ron Shaich? The answer should be obvious to many of you who know me. I intend to speak out against the ever-increasing short-termism I see in corporate America and our broader society. And I intend to put my money where my mouth is by investing in both growth and more mature companies and providing them with air cover and thought leadership as they make smart bets and effect transformations in an effort to win the old-fashioned way, truly delivering a better competitive alternative for target customers. In my opinion, it is these companies and those leaders that will win in the future. I truly hope you will be among them. Thank you.
That was fantastic, Ron. Really fantastic. I could listen to you speak all day, and I bet the attendees can as well. So please welcome our restaurant business editor-at-large, Peter Romeo. Good luck.
Hey, Ron, how are you?
So you guys ready for me to get intense?
Give you that. Well, you know, after watching the video, I was braced for the shock of you having pink hair. You spared me that, but there were some shocks in some of your comments. One statement in particular that really jumped out at me was something to the effect of we need to protect our ability to make long-term, future-oriented smart bets. Now, I think that does sum up your philosophy, but to some in the room, you've just summed up their nightmare. They know the need to do that. They know that they need to put their money on these long-term smart bets, but sometimes that muse won't talk. How do you get to that aha moment? How do you make that happen?
Well, I think it starts with an understanding of what I call means, ends, and byproducts. I have a friend. You saw him in that video. He's a type 1 diabetic. His mission in life is to stay alive as long as us. But he can't make that happen. It's a byproduct of what he does. So the end he focuses on is keeping his blood sugar in control between 70 and 140. That's his end. And what are the initiatives he focuses on to get there? Exercise and diet. My point is, if you want value creation, it's a byproduct. You can't make it happen. You've got to focus intensely on the end that matters, customer satisfaction, the end that matters, being a better competitive alternative, and understand what are the initiatives that are going to get you there. If you don't, you fail.
So you talked about coming up with these big ideas. So you've hit on something that really sounds like it's going to work, and you're excited about it. And you let the board know, and you let the senior team know, and they're looking at you like you're crazy. They're looking at you, why this? This is just insane. We don't see it. How do you make them buy in? How do you sell that to the powers that be and the other stakeholders?
Well, I mean, I think it really starts with an understanding. And that understanding is if you don't have a capital structure that supports that, you are literally going to fail at it. You know, some of you may know, I was on the board of Whole Foods. And you look at Whole Foods and you look at Amazon. And people ask me all the time, what is Amazon doing differently than Whole Foods? I ask you that. I'm going to tell you, nothing. Absolutely nothing. What are they focused on at Amazon? Cutting the prices to deal with a changing market, Aldi and Lidl coming in, dealing with Walmart and Target with organics and the price cuts. They're trying to deal with competitive pressure. And what else are they doing? They're trying to bring technology to bear. My point is, Peter, if you want, if in that case, the difference between Amazon and Whole Food is Amazon has a capital structure that lets them make long-term decisions. In Whole Food, we had so much pressure for the short term, the optionality was really out of the game. And that's really my point. You've got to start structurally. If you lose control of the structure, if you lose control of your business, it's very hard to get it back. The best thing I ever did at Panera was create a dual class of stock. The stupidest thing I ever did was make it 3-to-1 and not 10-to-1. And if you have that opportunity, you want to create a context to be able to protect what you dream of, and you want to be able to protect your initiative. You don't want what happens so often in the public markets, which is a reversion to the mean and the short term.
So building that structure, building those processes, building that culture, do you leave room for failure?
Not for me. I mean, you know, I think we get our reputation, we get about 80 or 90% of what we sign up done. And you know, I often think about, for me, the Israeli army. What's their choice? If they lose, they and their families are going in the sea. If you don't come at it from that kind of commitment and that kind of energy, you're probably not going to get it done. This business is tough. This business is dirt farming. The world doesn't need another restaurant at all. And if all you're going to do is get your percentage on the strip, you're dead. You need to be crystal clear what you're focusing on. You need to be crystal clear how you're going to get there. And you need to be absolutely clear that failure is not an option for you or your organization.
Mm-hmm. And so give us some other pillars of the culture that you try to cultivate and how that fosters into your success, of your success and Panera's success.
Well, I think the culture needs to be a culture that's literally seeking knowledge. We have to be, in our business, as you do in yours, the very best expert at our guests and understanding them, our target customer. Right? We don't have to win everybody. We don't want everybody. We don't want to be everybody's number two. We want to be number one for our guest. And in order to do it, it requires the kind of empathic thinking and feeling that you saw described yesterday in design thinking. Right? This isn't about a little bit of research and let's knee-jerk. It isn't about following what your competitors are doing. That's a guaranteed failure. What it's literally about is going deep on your target customer and figuring out why are they going to select you over everybody else. In fact, why are they going to walk past all your competitors to get to you? If they're not, you have no reason to exist. You're going to fail. You might as well go home. And then from there, it's about a profound focus on it. I can tell you, in the last 6 years, this was the strategy of Panera. The end we have in mind is being a better competitive alternative for our target customer. The other end was to grow our business from 5 to 10 billion. There was a half a dozen initiatives that rooted that strategy. And we kept talking about it over and over and over. And more importantly, we stayed focused on getting it done over 5 years. We didn't vary with the weather. We didn't vary with the competitive environment. We were crystal clear on it. And 90% of the meetings in Panera were focused on those initiatives.
What you're talking about being a perpetual student, that means stepping off that CEO treadmill. How do you make that happen? What did you do that allowed you to see what was happening, to look at the customer and to learn?
Well, I'll start with this. It starts with how you see yourself. Very simply. I want to share with you a fact. I was talking to one of the 3 largest money managers in the country. They manage $25 billion. They shared with me some of their internal research. They shared with me the fact that over the last 20 years, 90% of their alpha, or the incremental return that was generated, 90% of it was generated by companies that they said reloaded. I would use the word transforming. The world is changing. That's an absolute. You either stay with it or you die. And what they were saying is that's where the returns came from. So our jobs as CEOs, as leaders of our organization, our job is to discover today what's literally going to matter tomorrow. And in the case of a company like Panera with a couple of 100,000 employees, that takes years to do. Anything takes years to do. And I think that the important thing to understand is you have to stay focused on what your initiatives are for 2 or 3 years. And I think you also have to understand, particularly as a CEO, that your functional leaders, they're probably not capable of driving that change. Why? Because they tend to come from a perspective of protecting their functions. And the reality is it's infinitely easier to say no and say, I doubt it's going to work. And it's infinitely easier to stay with the status quo and everybody goes into automatic. It's like the way I drive to work. I never am aware of where I was as I drive. It's automatic, and so many of our organizations exist that way. And our job as leaders, our job as CEOs is literally to be the innovator in chief and to drive that change. The world doesn't need us for the status quo. The world needs us to make sure our companies are there when the world arrives in 3 or 4 years. I'll share with you something else. I think about this a lot. I think about what it means to be a leader. And I think about our president and his reactive perspective. But I think more importantly that in each of the presidents we've had over the last certainly 20 years and maybe 300 years, their administration, their legacy is defined by 1, 2, or 3 things. You think about Bush, what is it? It's 9/11 and it's Iraq. You think about Obama, it's probably Obamacare. Now they spend all kinds of time in ceremonial events, all kinds of time telling people what they just did, all kinds of time telling people what they're going to do. But in the end, that's what defines them. And my comment to you, that's exactly what you need to be doing. You need to be crystal clear 3 years from now what's going to define your success or failure. And then you need to stay disciplined. You need to stay rigid in making sure that you deliver what you've signed up to do. And literally, you need to understand how your legacy, how what you've done will be defined. For me, it's always been these transformative bets.
So we heard from yesterday's speaker from IDEO, his recommendation that you find your Tokyo. You find where the future is there today. Do you have a Tokyo?
Yeah, I go to your restaurants. The reality is, all knowledge is out there. As was said yesterday, it's just inequitably distributed. And the question is, can we see it and find it? But I always say, it's not to go to copy. It's actually something very different. It's to understand, and to understand deeply what drives my target customer. What drives the person I'm trying to attract? You'll find some crazy bald-headed guy wandering around in your restaurants asking your customers all the time, why are they there? Why did they choose to come into this place and not the other one? And that's the question. And you don't need research. You don't need focus groups. You don't need to spend a lot of money. You just need to be able to talk to them and hopefully walk in their shoes. And if you can do that, you can bring great things to your organization. The future's clear, and it starts and ends with the guest. I said it in the video. Technology, clean, digital, loyalty, the new thing we're doing, one-on-one, delivery, catering. None of those things in and of themselves matter. What matters is holistically whether we're meeting some need of a guest. I can remember when we were first doing the technology work, and Michael and I usually go to the Final Four every year, and we spend that Sunday doing research, wandering around restaurants. And I can remember 6 or 7 years ago going down to Houston And we were placing mobile orders. We were just kicking off our whole digital initiative. And I remember placing an order and then going to the restaurant. And I waited in the same line I would have waited on. And then I got to the front of the line and the manager looked at me and said, "Would you like me to fire your fries now?" And I thought to myself, why the hell did they put in this digital ordering system? And I realized it was because some CEO said we needed one and some technology guy gave him it. But it wasn't rooted in the guest experience. If you look at Panera 2.0, it started by listening to myself and customers. Do you know where Rapid Pickup came from, mobile order at Starbucks? It came because I drove my kid to school 2 to 3 days a week, and I'd want to get him breakfast and lunch. And in my family, we're always late. So what did we do? Very simply, we called from the road. And I'd give him my credit card, he'd run in and out of Panera, he'd be out in 30 seconds. And I'd continue along the drive to work, and I'd say to myself, this is a phenomenal system for me, but what about the other 10 million customers of Panera? Can we do that? And we realized digital was the way. Same thing happened with our order from the table system. I'd go to a meeting at 9 a.m. It'd be a half an hour meeting. I'd arrive right at 9 a.m. There'd be somebody sitting there. I'm on a schedule. He'd have his coffee and baked good. He'd say to me, "Do you want to get anything?" And I think to myself, do I want to go over to that line, wait in the ordering system, go over to the mosh pit, pick up the order, and come back? And I'd say, that would take 7 minutes. Is it worth it? And I'd say to myself, you know what? I'd just as soon not have any food. And then I say, well, wait, why can't we just figure out a way? I order the same thing every day to place my favorites and have it brought to me. And then I said, let's do it. And then finally, a couple of years ago, I was home writing a lot. And it would be lunchtime. And I should tell you, where I live, I have a Panera 3 blocks away, another one 4 blocks away, and a third one 5 blocks away. And I start to think to myself around noon, do I want to get in my car and drive the 10 minutes, find a parking spot, wait in the line, wait in the mosh pit, get back in the car, drive home? You know what? I'm the CEO of Panera, and I didn't even want to do it. And I said to myself, you know what? If these guys could just deliver, imagine how it would change my life. My point is, it all starts and ends with empathy for that guest and understanding how and why your target guest tomorrow is going to choose you.
Well, I would ask where you see that empathy for today's guest bringing you and possibly Panera a few years down the road, but I bet you're not going to tell me that. But at the very least,
I told him that in advance.
Share with us what you're doing now. The term retirement has been thrown around, and if that's retirement, I don't know what is. You don't strike me as the kind of guy to play golf. What are you going to do with yourself now?
Well, first, I mean, I love what I do. Why would I do anything different? So I want to find new mechanisms for my creativity. So first, I'm spending about 10% of my time on Panera and JAB activities. I'm spending another 10% of my time trying to bring voice to what you heard me say this morning. I can only tell you as a public company CEO, I can explain to you why, but there's been a terrible increase in short-termism, and it really is got untoward implications. And the other 80% of my time, I'm essentially creating an entity I call Act 3. Its intention is first to invest in public companies, go into them where they're under intense pressure, probably have been mispriced downward, provide air cover because I have the credibility to do that, and then help them walk through over 2 to 3 years a long-term transformation. That's A. B, I'm going into pre-public companies, again, making an investment, and given my experiences trying to help the leadership of those organizations through thought leadership really understand what it means to grow into a public entity. And then finally, I'm having great joy working with a whole range of emerging brands, usually really growth brands, where I'm able to take a very significant stake, but more importantly, be able to help them stay focused on mission and purpose, avoid the kind of crazy financings that you see over and over. It gets people in trouble all the time as they get into these equity structures that have cram downs and exploding equity. And I'm able to help them stay mission-driven and actually get there. Bring it together. I'm doing nothing different. What I love is figuring things out, and I love helping people and making a difference.
Well, unfortunately, we're out of time, and no one is more regretful about that than me, trust me. But please join me in welcoming and thanking and congratulating one more time our Restaurant Leader of the Year for 2018, Ronald Shake.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
It's been great.